You're listening to Grace, Geltman, and Weld on the Hammer Factor. Take it away, boys.
Okay, welcome to Hammer Factor 21. 21 issues of the Hammer Factor. On the line, we have Whitewater legend, co-owner, and all-around nice guy, John Weld. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. 21. Big 21.
21, yeah. And so
we can drink. The show can drink.
Yes. Got some coffee. So Lewis is, we don't know if we're going to get Lewis Geltman, our co-host, who is a policy counsel for the Outdoor Alliance, is actually in D.C. right now, rubbing elbows. So we're going to try, and I've never done this, but we're going to try and just give him a call on his cell phone and see what we can do.
He has a suit on, which always cracks me up. I'm guessing he has a suit.
I don't hear it ringing, although it says
hello.
Lewis.
Huh.
Gentlemen.
Looky there, it worked, man. We promised our viewers you were going to be there, and then there you are.
Right on.
So I know you're in D.C. What's going on?
Man, I just had it with talking about SUP ad nauseum, so I just came back here to go talk about outdoor recreation economics and the budget, and it's going to be way, way more compelling.
Yeah. Well, we're actually calling to talk about SUP politics.
See if we can find a way to ban them or something.
Was SUP included in your economic study?
I'm sure there was.
Yeah.
We actually,
although it's
John,
not ours, it's Outdoor Industry Association. But,
John and I were talking a moment earlier about this economic impact of the outdoor industry, and I think we both agreed that you guys cast a pretty big umbrella in terms of gathering that number.
I think that's accurate.
I mean, it's basically you're like, well, coal miners are actually dirt enthusiasts.
I've definitely heard that criticism of the OIA numbers before. I mean, I think it includes things like
everything.
Buying gas. It's like buying gas fuel on the way to the river.
If you burn tires, that's considered an outdoor activity.
But I mean, that is
with an impact.
Legitimate in a
as
way,
long as you
right?
drove your four-wheeler there.
Right.
But for outdoor recreation, you wouldn't have spent that money. I mean, I think that's I don't know. I mean, in a sense, that's accurate, but it's definitely. I've heard that criticism before, and that's actually something that we kind of have been thinking about for a while. Is the new number is $887 billion, and it's sort of like, it's just such a mind-boggling sum that I think people sometimes hear that and just sort of like roll their eyes or shrug their shoulders or like, this is really
that's like the
meaningful.
GDP of the United States this year.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I think we think sometimes about how we kind of like take those numbers to a more meaningful level of specificity regarding like a specific resource. And it's like, it's really complicated. We've looked into this stuff before because, like the common way that they do those economic studies is an economic impact analysis, which is basically looking at how much money visitors spend when they go to a place. So, like our backyard trail system in Hood River, if you did an economic impact analysis of that trail system, it would count what somebody from Portland spent to like drive out there, go ride their bike. If they went out to drinks afterwards, that would be in like the economic impact analysis.
Okay.
But it wouldn't include me buying a bike to go ride at Post Canyon because I live there and that's not tourist spending or visitor spending, nor would it include things like, like our biggest employer in the gorge is this company called In Situ. It's this huge defense contractor that's like a drone manufacturer. And they have like a $100 million defense contract, and they employ all these tons and tons of engineers there. And all that is there because the two guys who started the company are windsurfers, and they like wanted to live someplace that was sweet for windsurfing. So, it's like very complicated. Like, how do you capture that, right? Like, right. I don't know. So, I don't know. It's an interesting thing.
Well, we were looking at this water sports gear number, and it was on the report here. It says $14 billion, and I was wondering, Weld, what's your contribution to that $14 billion?
It's a portion. Yeah, it's a portion. Right, it's a portion of that.
Like 5, 10, 20%. Like, what are we looking at?
We're in sort of the higher risk tranche of that segment, I would say, if I could put it in economic terms. Hey, before I forget, Geltman, and I need an answer for this. A couple parks around us here in Morgantown, including Cooper's Rock, which is right up the road from us, as of Memorial Day, is going to be charging a $2 per car entry fee. Go ahead, explain. What's going on that's making this happen?
Is it a state park or is it?
State park.
State park.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens, right? I mean, the states don't have the budget to necessarily fund public lands very well. And, I think that's one of the downsides when we talk about the risk of turning over national public lands to the states is, like, user fees, certainly a part of it. So I don't know, man. $2?
No, I just want to know the dynamic of what's going on here. That like, how do we? So on one side, you say, okay, maybe we're going to be paying less taxes, right? I know we have big news coming out tomorrow regarding our the way we pay taxes in the United States. I'm sure we're going to see gigantic, sweeping changes occurring pretty much tomorrow at noon. But so you argue, okay, so we're going to supposedly pay less than taxes, but then we're going to get nickel and dime for every other thing that we do. Is that kind of the plus and minus of that balance sheet?
I mean, I don't feel like I have the expertise to give you much of a definitive answer on that one. But I mean, yes. I mean, it's a different deal when it's the state budgets, right? I mean, it's state taxes that would potentially be paying to maintain that land, or state user fees.
Are you?
Or maybe the state decides to do a bunch of coal mining there instead, and then you get in for free, or I don't know.
Seems like a win-win. Let me not to change gears here on you, Lewis, but are you with Mitch McConnell right now?
I haven't seen him yet this morning, but I'll keep an eye out for him for sure.
Have we seen anyone famous this morning?
No, we were out late last night. We had our board meeting all day yesterday, and then went out as you do. And I just got into the office.
Was this like an Uber Korea type situation where you guys? Like what does the Outdoor Alliance people do to unwind on a Monday night in DC?
We just had a happy hour with like a bunch of our board members are in town, and I don't know, like some congressional staff and people like that.
Yeah.
Good.
Nothing compromising, I'm hoping.
Sadly not.
We'll
Maybe
see.
by the end of the week.
See if you can get Mitch on the show.
Okay, that's a good idea.
I got some questions for Mitch. He's
I got some questions for Mitch as well.
He's always one of those guys I see that are like, referenced on Fox News or whatever, and I'm always like, man, I would really like to sit in a room and talk to that guy.
I would like to see you sit in a room and talk to that guy. We can make that happen.
I mean, I would really like to talk to him. I'd just be like, shake his cheeks.
Like, how do you live with yourself?
I think Mitch would be completely nonplussed by John Grace. I don't think it would compute. Nothing would make any sense. He'd be looking around like, what is this?
Murmuring into his jowl discontentedly.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so give us. Oh boy, John Grace is showing us his smalls to the Walsh wag.
Yeah.
Now.
I got a new shirt.
So that we're going to make. He's the organizer going to make an appearance on the show here since John got his free gear. Don't edit that out either. I want the world to know what's going on here.
So, Lewis, real quick, sorry to bother you. I know you got a lot of stuff to do. So, and in all seriousness, so the this outdoor industry economic report came out, and so what happens to it, and what's significant about it?
So this is something that it's like something that the Outdoor Industry Association, who is partner of ours, does kind of periodically. I think they last came out with these studies in 2012, and it just gets cited endlessly. It's really useful. We cite those numbers in testimony or lobbying or whatever all the time, and people pick up on it. It's
do these but do these numbers mean anything? Because we honestly, Grace and I looked at this for a minute. We were like, that number is kooky talk. Does that just get thrown? That number get thrown around, and people are like, well, whatever. Who knows what that means? Or does it actually mean something when you bring that number up?
It means something. I'm interested if that's your reaction to that. But the Secretary of the Interior cites that number all the time. Ryan Zinke was at the launch event for this thing this morning, and everybody in Congress likes to talk about the economic impact of outdoor recreation. And I think that there's to us, the outdoors means something that totally transcends dollar signs, right? But when you go talk to people in Congress, there are people who are like us, and there are people who are not like us. And the people who are not like us, they see dollars and cents. And when you're able to say, protecting public lands, this is not an alternative to economic development. This is economic development. And being able to put some numbers to that, having this huge, massive national number, I think you're right that there probably is some dubiousness about that. But I guess the number is big enough that even if it's only halfway true, it's still a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not
not true. True is not true.
It doesn't end the conversation, right? It's we have all this money, and then we allegedly are doing all this, and then this week it's Outdoor Industry Association's Capital Summit, so a bunch of executives from the kind of companies that you'd see at Outdoor Retailer, they're all in town talking to congressional offices and saying, look, protecting public lands, this is important to my business. If nobody has any public lands to go out on, I'm not going to sell any more hiking boots or whatever. So, that stuff has an impact. You're right. Just trotting out some huge number doesn't end the conversation, but it's part of it.
You guys should have flown me down to to DC.
You should be. Yeah, you should be here, man.
I go to happy hour at Clyde's or wherever you guys go. Where do we go for happy hour in DC? What's the...
we went to this place called Emissary. It's some... I don't know. It's some coffee shop during the day / bar at night. I don't know. It seemed pleasant and nondescript.
Are you wearing a suit right now?
I'm not, but I do have a shirt with a collar on, and it is tucked in.
Does
I will wear a suit tomorrow.
Does Ryan Zinke know who you are?
No.
No idea. Wouldn't recognize you.
No.
What about Mitch?
I could sort of see him peering over his glasses quizzically at me.
What's he doing? Who let him in?
Get out of my office.
Well, it's a really interesting study. Now, the people who signed up for the email list, did this get sent to them through the Outdoor Alliance email list, or is this how did they?
I
get
doubt
this
the whole
information?
study did. I think that we probably. I know that Tanya, who's our communications director, I know that she posted something or did something about it, and so I'm sure that it will be appearing somewhere on our social media channels. And if you're really interested, you can check it out at outdoorindustry.org, I think.
Yeah, that's where I got it. It's pretty interesting. We got surfing, scuba diving, boating, downhill skiing, ATVs, horseback riding, mountaineering, motorcycling, on and off road, hunting, fishing. And you think about it, and like mainly I just think of mountain biking or paddle sports or whatever when I think of outdoor activity, but all of these activities you're doing in the outdoors. So maybe this number is right. Who
Yeah,
knows?
It's like we as here are like real like adventurous outdoor sports. We're definitely not the biggest part of that, right? But we're part of it, and we can use that stuff to tell the story we need to tell. So it's good. It's good they're doing it. Like they have state numbers as well, and I think they haven't finished producing those yet. Like they still have the 2012 state numbers up on the website, but I'm assuming there will be some new state numbers coming out as well, and I think that helps with the specificity stuff. And I don't know. I think that economic stuff is pretty interesting. Like, I think you're right about the OIA numbers being a little bit of a like blunt instrument sometimes. But another really cool thing to check out sometimes is there's this outfit in Bozeman called Headwaters Economics, and they do a ton of kind of like more sophisticated economic studies about the value of protected public land, like looking at things like, I don't know, like the economic performance of counties that have national monuments or wilderness areas or whatever in them, and comparing them to kind of like pure counties over a length of time. And there's definitely ways to demonstrate that protecting public lands has economic value, and it's
also point out, we're our factory's in Confluence, PA, which is a town of 300 people in western Pennsylvania, middle of Appalachia. Coal mining has long since left, or for the most part left. Lumber industries have all left. And what's left is the bike trail and hunting, and there's a lake there, with boating and stuff like that and swimming. So, for a lot of places like that, that's what's saving that town,
Yeah, and those are really the kind of stories that make a difference. It's like you show up here and talk to your congressperson, and they're like, I'm the largest employer in my town, and like this is here because of whitewater kayaking. Right. And if you guys like pollute the Castleman or the Yacht to the point that nobody wants to fucking paddle here anymore, like we're leaving.
Right. Yeah.
So Lewis, do you want to stay on as long as possible, or do you need to get off the phone?
Man, sadly, I got to jump. I got to finish writing something and then go to this thing.
A mixer.
A thing, huh?
I think the thing involves karaoke.
All right, well, see what you can do about hooking us up with Mitch, and looking forward to hearing the stories next week.
And pick an ABBA song for your karaoke. You can't go wrong.
Thanks, man. You
Thanks,
guys
Mr.
try not to mess the place up while I'm gone.
Thanks, Mr. Geltman.
Bye, Lewis.
Later, boys.
Well, there you have it. Direct from DC.
There we go.
Come on, we
correspondent.
Yeah. That was a crowning moment for the Hammer Factor right there.
Coming to you live from
$853 billion. You look at that list of all the things, and you can start to imagine how. I don't know.
I wonder why we started making kayaking gear and not skiing gear or four-wheeler gear.
Yeah. No.
Oh well, next time.
Okay, now on to the
lots of show to go to. So
now earlier we recorded an interview with Don, who puts on the Cuyahoga Race. So we're going to play that right now before we get into Bren Orton.
But this hit right. I mean, to be honest, this hit radar because this is it's a whitewater race occurring in an unlikely place, Ohio.
Yes, exactly.
And you were pointing out this is it's kind of in an urban. Well, not kind of. It's definitely in an urban center. I mean, it looks like you're putting in it like a Sherwin-Williams or something, like like a VA administration or parking lot. But the whitewater looks pretty good, and he's getting a good turnout. And you were saying this is the future of whitewater kayaking in your superlative type of way. You were mentioning this was the future of the sport.
Exactly. I was saying this is where the growth is going to occur in the sport, is these
I
new
was
markets and opening up. Hey,
right.
Look, these guys, and I believe it was the Friends of the Cuyahoga, we talk about in the interview, but there was a whole series of dams on this river, and they're getting every one of them moved out, having kayaking races. There's like 600 people coming and spectating. Come on, that's a big deal.
And 0 reported cases of polio from the water.
Okay, let's go to the interview with that one. So what happened there, before we get into the race, what happened with the dams being removed? How did that, was there a push for that? Were there some people who made that happen? How did that all come about?
Absolutely. There's a group called Friends of the Crooked River that has been leading the charge for removing all the dams on the Cuyahoga River. There were 2 dams removed previously. I'm not exactly sure on the date, but one was in Kent and one was in Monroe Falls. And that kind of started the push to get all of them taken out. So then we moved down into Cuyahoga Falls, and there were 2 dams, and they were pretty much back to back. They were about an eighth of a mile apart from each other. And once those came out in 2013, the city, the mayor at the time, Mayor Robart, and he worked with a lot of groups to get those dams taken out and let the river flow freely. There are 2 more dams left on the river. One is halfway between here and Cleveland, and that one is scheduled for removal. But the biggest one right now that needs the most attention is the Gorge Dam in Cuyahoga Falls, and they are working on that. The Ohio EPA is completely behind it. We're working on getting the funding from the federal EPA. There's still a few studies to be done, but that's a 60-foot dam, which creates a 1.5 mile dam lake, and under that is about 60 feet of elevation change, which we know there's rapids under there. We're just not exactly sure what they're going to look like now. We're expecting like a class 2-3 creek scenario underneath that lake, which leads up to a 20-foot cascading waterfall, which is currently below the dam. But once that dam comes out, we'll have a solid link between what we have upriver above the lake and below river, or downriver below the dam.
So how long of a whitewater section would that be when it's all said and done?
We're looking at probably about 2.5 miles of starting with class 2, hitting the waterfalls behind the Sheridan, which are class 4 to 5, depending on water level, and then probably hook back up with the class 3 rapids, maybe 2 that we're expecting in the dam lake. Then you would hit another probably class 4 waterfall right below the dam, and then into some more class 2 waves. Class 3 maybe on water level, but the wave, it's an awesome wave train. Even now below the dam, one of the fun local runs is what we call the lower gorge, and at high water it is just a great playtime. Just wave trains nonstop.
So what's the water quality like?
Well, I prefer not to drink it, but
Yeah.
I think it's fine. I mean, I practice play boating in the flat water above the Sheridan Run. Definitely, just like you see most in any urban environment, after a heavy rain, the water's a chocolatey, milky brown. But it cleans up, and the visibility is definitely improved. The wildlife is definitely improved. We've got minks on the river, and someone actually just captured a picture of a beaver at the race. I didn't even know they were there. I'd never even seen a beaver in this area, but there's been evidence of them, but someone captured a picture of a beaver right next to Jackson Karma Unlimited, literally right in the middle of the race course. We had no idea what he was doing there. Cool. But we've got river otters returning, minks. They look like, I don't know if you've ever seen a minx, but they're kind of like just river ferrets. But yeah, I think the water quality's definitely improved since the dams came out. The smell is improving also, but yeah, it's a great river now.
So I'm for some reason I'm picturing like below the lake a bunch of silt. I mean, I guess when they knock these dams out, what have you seen this happen before on other dams on that section of river, or what happens?
You're right. Silt when the Monroe Falls Dam came out, which is a few miles upriver from where the race course has, some of that silt and sand has moved downriver. Now they do the best that they can to remove it, but with the Monroe Falls Dam removal, that silt has moved, and just even last year, right below the first waterfall, there's even part of like a sandbar building up right behind one of the rocks, which wasn't even there, last year. It's starting to build up. So some silt is moving downriver, but the majority of it is landing into the 60-foot dam lake that's still there. So with that sediment, part of their removal process with the dam is the sediment is going to be hydraulically dredged and pumped out and moved to a containment area. There's a conveniently placed old landfill right downriver, and the plan right now is to utilize that dam or that landfill for all the sediment behind the dam. And the Ohio EPA is doing a wonderful job working with all the local support groups, and they have a committee put together, and everybody is supporting the removal of the dam. It's just getting all the studies put together and getting the federal EPA to fund it. And that's where we're moving towards right now.
Tell me about, so where did the idea of the race come from, and what is your involvement with it?
That is a great question. And so it originally started as a local grassroots private Facebook race. The co-founders of the race were Tommy Pyros and Nick Williams, and these guys pretty much started running those Sheridan Falls right around the 2013 era, immediately after the dams were removed. So late 2013, early 2014, Tommy and Nick just started sending these falls. They'd been whitewater kayaking for quite a while, and so they started, bringing their friends and kayakers and exposing people to the waterfalls and making it more of a group activity for the local paddling community. So they wanted to just put together a quick race just to see, if the water level was good, we'll run a race and see who wins. So I was part of that group, and I got invited to the whitewater race, and I started making logos and going through some pictures that some guys had of them running the falls, and then someone brought up the idea of making T-shirts. So that's when I got involved, because I've lived in Cuyahoga Falls my whole life. I literally live about 300 yards from the river itself and maybe 3 blocks from the waterfalls. So I grew up on the river here. I know everything about it. And so I kind of got brought on as like an organizer to help them promote the race. So they created it. They kind of recruited me to, really go into the promotion side of things, and it ended up being brought into the public eye because a lot of people heard we were doing it and wanted to come to watch. So that's when another person in the local group, Matt Fredmonsky, he put together a press release. So we released a press release, and then from there it exploded. We started inviting a lot of people to the Facebook page, even though it was private. The mayor got invited. Once the mayor found out, he was super excited about it, backed up the race 100%, got the city behind it. And then it turned out we weren't going to have enough water to run the event, and the water was just dropping out. I think, we want to run 600 to 800, and we were probably looking at 300 CFS. So the mayor actually contacted the city of Akron water department, and there's a reservoir that they get all their water from. I think it's about 12 miles upriver, but it's located in Kent, and they released water for us, which is unprecedented. They've never done recreational release. So the Mayor Don Walters was crucial in getting us the water that we needed last year for the inaugural race. And without that, I mean, we still would have ran it, but you can still run it. It's still fun. It's just not fast, and it's not nearly as challenging. So
how many days a year does that section of river run? I mean, is it something that only runs in the spring, or can you run it all summer?
It's definitely very low in the summer, aside from flash flooding, some freak rainstorms. If it rains consistently in the summer for, a 24-hour period, we might see a nice spike where we can utilize the river for a day or two. But it typically runs pretty heavily in all through the winter, usually, sometimes too high to even be, runnable. The highest it's ever been ran is 2,500, and there's a video of that, and it's a pretty scary video. But typically the guys will run it up to 1,500. But the safe zone where the holes don't become as nearly retentive is right around the 600 to 1,000 mark. But yeah, typically spring and fall and winter. Summer, it's a really dry, low river. You can pretty much hike across the river in the summer.
So tell me about the race this year. How many racers did you have? Did you get a crowd to watch? Kind of paint the picture for me.
Yeah, I would say last year we had probably 300 to 400 spectators. This year I would at least double that. I mean, it was packed, and people were coming and going throughout the day. So we might have had even up to 1,000 visitors, maybe even more. I was so involved with the race, I didn't get a chance to really walk around and see all the different spectating areas, but we actually had more than 50 registered boaters, but some backed out. It was higher than we expected. Some of the local guys that had ran it at lower water knew kind of where their abilities were, and when we were at 800 CFS, they thought maybe they should wait for another day to tune in their abilities a little bit. So we ended up with 49 competitors registered and racing, and that those competitors came in from 15 different states, mostly the Appalachian states on the East Coast. And it was a phenomenal event. We had a little bit of a late start with some late registers, so I had to sacrifice some of the stuff that I had planned with the announcer. I didn't have time to put everything together. And, Hunter Cooper definitely showed up for the race. Yeah, we had quite a few big names out there. I could list them all off with the fear of maybe forgetting one of them, but we had Stephen Wright, Hunter Cooper, Wade Harrison, Matt Huddleston, Bobby Miller, Seth Chappelle. I know there's another Jackson. Oh, Chad Christopher was there. So hopefully I didn't forget anybody. Adam Homburg, Paddles for Prana. And Nick Tommy, actually the co-founders last year. Nick just got picked up by Liquid Logic Kayaks, and Tommy Pyros just got picked up by Jackson Kayaks. So these guys, starting this event last year basically segued this into where I was able to promote it and take it to the next level. And them being the co-founders, I wanted to make sure that they were okay with me becoming the race coordinator and just moving forward with it, promoting them as co-founders. And they're phenomenal paddlers. I love paddling with them. And it's good to see it grow from 22 competitors last year across 3 or 4 states to more than double this year, with more than half of the states on the East Coast coming up to visit.
Did you do a slalom out there during this race, or was it just a downriver sprint? How was the format?
Oh, great question. So we had a short boat race. It's just a half a mile sprint. Long boat race, same thing. Then we switched it up this year, and Nick Williams was pretty much the guy who had the idea to set up the slalom course, I mean, there was a lot of guys that were interested in the slalom course. A lot of the local paddlers, Mike Safran, Ross Crocker, probably the biggest supporters of putting in a slalom course. So Nick and those guys worked together to set it up. And Brian Homburg, back in the late 1980s, he was part of the USA whitewater slalom team. So part of his practice is he actually would set up slalom gates in this area and on the lower gorge to practice for that. Okay. So we actually knew it was possible. It just took a lot of time and effort on Nick's part to get it all set up, and that worked awesome. We also threw in a Boater X. We had 7 guys launch. And surprisingly, it was an open class Boater X, so you could use a long boat, short boat. And surprisingly, Nick stayed ahead of the pack for most of the second half of the race in a party brab. And Nick is just a beast paddler, man. He was staying ahead of the long boats, dropped into the waterfall section behind the Sheridan, still was in the lead all the way down through the second drop in the jumble of rocks down there, and then just barely got pushed out by Hunter Cooper, who won the Boater X by literally probably 10 feet. So the longboat came in for the win, but that was pretty exciting. That was the only video media I was able to capture on the day because my phone fried. I was able to record the Boater X with my drone. The video is on the Facebook page. It's definitely worth watching. It's a pretty intense race. But immediately after that, my battery died on my phone literally while I was flying the drone. But
that's scary.
Yeah, I knew my battery was dying. So I flew the drone immediately to where I could see it. So I knew the phone was going to die. And as soon as it did, I parked the drone visually. But yeah, I mean, it was an awesome event. I'll tell you, one of the most impressive runs was watching Seth Chappelle run the slalom course in his C1 kayak. That was pretty awesome to watch, and he did place 3rd place with that. So
cool. Well, do you have a date for next year, Don?
We don't have one set in stone, but we're typically looking at the 3rd weekend in April. I'm actually pulling up the calendar right now to see what that's going to look like. Going the wrong way. So it looks like we'd probably be looking at April 21st, 2018. Don't quote me on that. But I am trying to get some feedback from a lot of the kayakers to make sure that 3rd weekend in April is still good to go. I know the city likes it. As far as getting the commitment for water release from the city of Akron, they like it as well, because in the summertime they need to pretty much hold on to all the water that we can get. That is their drinking water that they give us. So in the spring, they're more than willing to help us out with water flow if we need it. So April seems to be a good month because it's right before all the fests and races across the country start. So we definitely want to keep it convenient for, a lot of the big name paddlers and just people all over the East Coast, to give them something else to do in the late spring before everything else kicks off.
Well, I can't wait to see this race evolve. It sounds like you got a good thing going there. Well, Don, I'll let you. I know you got to get out on the water and take some gates down, but I appreciate you coming on the show. John, do you have anything else you'd like to?
No, I was actually interested in the slalom as well, but I think we covered that. It looks like a slalom course waiting to happen.
I agree.
So,
all right. Well, you have a good day, Don, and just reach out if you ever need anything.
All right.
All right, well there you go. Now let's just move straight on. Enough about the Cuyahoga, and let's get Bren Orton. Brendan Orton. Let's see if we can add him to the conversation.
You would know Bren because he's the guy. You're getting him on right now?
I'm getting it on right now, yep.
Okay, you would know Bren because he's the guy who was made famous by being rescued by Dave Fuseli above that waterfall.
Yeah, he thinks we're calling to talk about his event that he's putting on, but really all I want to talk about is him getting rescued by Vasily.
That's right. Not interested in the event at all. Bren, just hold on for 1 minute. We're talking about you.
Yeah, and so
Zip.
and so
So he was, there was like 50 or 60 million views of him getting pulled out of the river by Dave Fuseli, who was might as well been wearing a Superman t-shirt when this happened. Right?
Yeah.
Great.
Bren, are you there?
I am. I'm having a senior moment. I can't find the way to make the button pop up.
There
Oh, wait.
we go.
Can you see us?
Oh yeah, there we go.
Perfect. Here we go.
Oh look, we got
Excellent.
Bren and Dane on the Hammer Factor this week.
Nice.
We got a whole
Good.
pack of boys in there. Bunch of accents.
So, Bren, could you explain to me what's wrong with Americans, just in a nutshell? And then maybe specifically American kayakers.
I'm deaf, so I won't be able to hear it, so go ahead.
This was the Bren, not Dane, but thanks for proving that point. Everything wrong with America.
Yeah. Go.
Your president doesn't believe in science.
Okay.
Was that Dane coughing Brexit in the background?
I mean, on behalf of everyone in England, we'd like to thank America for managing to yet again be the bigger idiots. You really trumped us.
We saw Brexit and we were like, we can do better.
Yeah.
Hold my beer.
We got that.
Hold my beer. Here we go.
Okay, and so American kayakers. What's wrong with American kayakers? And go ahead and you can use slalom or our lack of canoe clubs or urine-filled artificial courses.
Dude, I honestly like a lot of American kayakers. I don't. I mean, I wish I could talk some rubbish on them right now, but I honestly get along with most people I meet on the river. There's definitely, I mean, coming from England in the southeast, back where Grace is, there's definitely some like real American boys down there on the green. You know, you paddle past Gorilla and you're like, hell yeah, man, power to you. That I definitely don't get that much, but it's pretty funny. It keeps it entertaining out there.
All right, there we go. All right, so we're done. Thanks. Well, thanks for your time.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Real quick before we get on to what you boys are up there doing right now, tell us about that infamous day when Vasily roped you out above the waterfall. Give us the play-by-play. And how did you miss that boof?
I mean, dude, that was honestly that was my first 20-footer followed by my first 60-footer. So
That's a fast progression.
But I mean, dude, that was my first year on tour with Dave and the Demshits crew, and I was just like, it was honestly just a baptism of fire, you know. Like the only advice I ever got told on any section of river, you know, I'd be like, oh, where are we going here or on this rap, and it'd just be like, follow Dave, do what Dave does. And it was a rough couple of weeks, and I definitely got owned in a couple of holes, but you know, I spent long enough in a freestyle kayak that I could sort of rodeo out eventually. So even though I got my ass kicked, I didn't necessarily swim. I didn't really swim that year, but even though I got destroyed on a lot of rapids. But basically, dude, it was just, you know, getting overconfident and just being so fired up and motivated to be with those guys who are going to run it. And I was just like, you know, I can't miss this opportunity. I don't know if I'll ever come back to the Olympic Peninsula. And, you know, I definitely was not ready for it. And yeah, I mean, the rest is history, you know. Like, I just didn't have the finesse for that drop. You know, when you watch Dave run it, it's just beautiful. You know, it's a late turning boost stroke, which takes a lot of confidence and experience to pull off. And, you know, back then, my only real understanding of how to boof was to just sprint as hard as I could and not stop kayaking, not stop paddling until I landed. So, you know, I did that.
That's not how it's done?
Yeah. Shocker.
It's kind of the Wile E. Coyote approach.
Yeah,
just keep running out into space.
Anyway, that made for some epic entertainment. I watched that at least a dozen times. So.
Yeah, it's also the highest paid moment of my life so far. So
Killer.
swings and roundabouts.
All right, so tell us about what you got going on up there right now. Fill us in as if we don't know anything.
Okay, well, it is a ridiculous time of year right now for Eastern Canada and Quebec, and so we're in the middle of stakeout season, and for about 6 weeks a year, we get potentially some of the best big river waves in the world, the biggest, the scariest, and the sickest, and it's a pretty famous gathering of kayakers. A lot of people flying throughout the world just for this season, just to surf. And over the past couple of years, there's also been an event held here called the Whitewater Grand Prix, which was absolutely awesome. I mean, by far the best event I've ever been to, aside from a green race, obviously. It was awesome, but unfortunately that couldn't happen the last 2 years. And 3 out of 4 of my crew have all competed in it and thought the same as I did, that it was just awesome, and that, you know, the Whitewater here is too special for us not to have an event that allows us to showcase what's possible on this section of Whitewater.
So just for the people out there, where exactly is this, and what rapids we're talking about?
Right now, we're going to be based around the Ottawa River and the Mississippi River. You'll have seen them in a couple of older videos, but I mean, high water Ottawa is pretty infamous for its waves such as Mini Bus, Big Bus, Gladiator. Sure you've heard of a couple of those. And then further up north, we've got the Mississippi River and the Mississini, and we have Bridge Rapid. I don't know if you've seen that, but it's enormous. And then on there, we've got on that river, we've got Ginormica, Ginormosaurus, Black Mass, H2O wave, bunch of good waves up there. And then in between, we have some really sick sections of whitewater to race down, like the Rouge River at high water is just insane. So much fun. And then we've got the Petit Bostonais, which is where we're hoping to hold a creek race. But that thing is pretty legit.
So who all you got?
So is this invitational? Yeah.
Sorry, say that again?
Who all you got up there? Tell me about is this an invitational? Anybody can come? You know, how's it work?
It is, this year we sent out some invitations to a couple of people that we thought would want to come and compete and we wouldn't have to worry about. And we had an application process that anyone could apply to. And we had a panel of vetting people, and, you know, we didn't really turn anyone away because they weren't good enough. Like, everyone who was applying had a good understanding of what they would potentially be getting into by applying to come to this event. It was more just because we had a bunch of entries and there were a lot of competitive kayakers trying to come, and we just tried to pick who we thought would perform the best. So.
And how many people do you have?
Right now, I think we have about 23 kayakers.
With 4 women.
Right now we have 5 girls competing now, which is awesome.
Oh, that's a great turnout. Who are your ladies?
We have Brooke Hess, Geneviève Royer, Darby McAdams. Really excited about her being here. She's absolutely crushing it. We've got Jordan Slaughter and Katie Kowalski. So really, really strong ladies crew.
We're fired up.
Hell yeah! So, are you experiencing peak water right now, or is it going up, coming down?
We're right now we're experiencing. There's usually about 2 big peaks a year, and right now we're experiencing the first one. And what's crazy is that this isn't even the biggest peak, but the levels that we're reaching right now are usually the max. So that means in about 3 weeks they're going to get a second peak, and it's probably going to be some of the highest flows that we've ever seen in Eastern Canada. And maybe when that happens, we'll find some new waves, some new rivers. But the spring is about to go off for sure.
Okay, so you guys are there for the next month or so.
Yep, spot on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we're not going anywhere until the flows are low, which probably won't happen. But it's definitely going to be an epic spring, and definitely couldn't have asked for better water levels for our event.
And so who does the judging? Is this a peer-reviewed judging? Do you have how are you keeping score of both? Do you have a timing crew, and how are you pulling it off?
Dude, we're honestly, this is an event run by athletes for athletes. So the only way we can make this happen is by having everyone cooperate. So everyone's gonna have to help out with the timings and the gate judges on the giant slalom. And then for freestyle judging, we're really excited. We just came up with our own scoring system that is influenced a lot by how they surf in the ocean. And we're going to be judging that. And, I mean, we absolutely are not trying to, fake any results or anything like that. Like, if someone pulls off the best ride, we don't care who it is. We want to reward them.
Yeah,
so it's going to be impartial judging. But by by people who know the scoring system. You know, like we wrote it, so I think we understand it best for this year. But next editions, I'd be stoked to bring in some outside judges, just so there's no question about anything like that.
Cool.
Yeah, this is the first. The problem with Stakeout, the hardest thing trying to apply traditional freestyle judging to it is that you can. It's hard to reward people for trying to progress or really trying different things, but also. What we really wanted to go for with our new system is it's the first time we'll be rewarding people for. We have normal judging, then we also have what's called a Steez score, which is basically you're going to give a person a certain amount of points based on how well they did all the tricks in their ride. But then we also have a third judge, which is called the flow multiplier. You can get scored from 1 time to 2 times your score based on how well you move in between each trick and set up and stay active on the wave. So someone that's just front surfing, waiting to throw a trick, won't get scored as high as someone that's really being active and making their passage happen and really go for what they can. So that way it really leaves no room for people to be able to just throw one trick. Like you're going to be adding everything together to one score.
So if I was up there just kind of trying to survive and soul surf a wave, I wouldn't get a very good score in this competition.
You get rewarded. You just got to look cool doing it. I mean,
that's no problem for Grace.
Oh, yeah,
he's got that down. Yeah.
Some shutter rudders, paddle spin.
So
Yeah,
maybe
you guys got that better than we do.
maybe this is a good time to segue into the viewer email we got regarding freestyle and the Jacksons.
Yeah. Do you guys have a second up there?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Yeah. So a part of our show, let me fill you in on this. We always do some viewer mail. And so being that we have a bunch of people write in questions, always wanting to learn about something. So being that we have this opportunity, we're going to cue you in on some questions that came up. Do you want to do this, Will? Do you have them in front of you? I
do. I'm gonna try and paraphrase this because it goes on for a bit. But the first paragraph kind of gets to the meat of it. Who is the guy who wrote this? I don't have his name here.
Simon Windham. Simon Wyndham.
Okay, he writes, for one more for the Thinking Pod. In an earlier episode of the Hammer Factor, there's some mention of why some paddlers don't like Jackson kayaks. One of the speculations was that it might be in part due to their family-friendly image and a big focus on freestyle. So here's the thing. While freestyle is not exactly in its heyday, why is there freestyle hate around? And he goes on to say that most really good boaters have freestyle as part of their quiver. And he mentions the world's top boaters, the Garcias, Marion, Adrian, Dane, Benny, all these guys are damn good at freestyle. They recommend it as a way of getting better. So what's up with that? So why, with such top boaters singing his praises, why is freestyle such a low ebb as a whole, and why are people kind of trashing the image of freestyle?
Man, I honestly, I hear this a lot, and I see it a lot with a lot of kids coming up now, which makes me really sad, because freestyle, you know, when you're a kid is amazing, because all you need is a ride to a freestyle spot. You don't need to run shuttle. You don't need your parents worrying about you running big rapids. It's park and play most, and your parents fill out of the sides. It's a great way to get into the sport, and you can get a bomb-proof roll, like without even thinking about it, just by having fun. And, you know, when you're getting beat up in a hole, when you are creaking, you know, some extra little special tricks to get out of there. Right. And you come doing it. I think the biggest reason why there's a lot of hate towards freestyle, and I hope no one takes offense to this, because some people genuinely do like running rivers more, and that's totally cool and awesome, but a lot of people that don't like freestyle, because plain and simple, they're not good at it. You know, you can't fake being good at freestyle. You can tell people that you've ran the little white or the green. You can't, you know, you leave out the part that you swam, that you got your ass kicked and all that stuff, but you can't be like, oh yeah, I can air screw clean blunt just as good as Dano, and then not be able to do it. You know, there's no faking it.
So, I mean, Dane, do you think that your family's involvement with freestyle has hurt your brand image in that way, or what's your thoughts on that?
I think the reason why Jackson Kayak's brand image, for the most part, is people probably attach us to freestyle. We've all been really stoked on the freestyle boats that we've come out with over the last years. We've always been stoked on the boats as well as a lot of customers. So obviously, while we've been pushing it, trying to get our freestyle boat the best, we also, I feel that no matter how much creeking I do, no matter how waterfalls I run, it seems like myself, Emily, my dad, we're all very mostly known for freestyle. Seems like no matter where I go, freestyle is always what people seem to remember about me, or where my name is always tied to, which is fine. I'm stoked for the result that I've had. But I think by myself, my dad, my sister, all of us, and Nick being so tied to freestyle, they tie that to the family name of Jack and Kyle. In the end, I think we're just now kind of finally starting to get into the point where people will start recognizing us for our creek boats as well.
Well, I think anybody who's in the know recognizes, your Nick, your dad, everybody's ability to creek boat. But I think Bren brings up a really good point. Do you think that people, I've never thought about that, but do you think people hate on it because they can't do it well? Have you ever heard of that?
The hardest thing about freestyle is that, most people around the world if they're kayakers, they live around somewhere you can go river running or creeking. And these days, waterfalls is where it's at because all you have to do is paddle off the lip, essentially. But I do agree that with Bren, we're in the sense that because people can't access it, or when they go and try it once in front of their friends and they don't do very well, or they eat it, or they just can't figure out how to do certain tricks, they get frustrated and they give up right away. So it's easier to hate on it than it is to respect other people for it. So I think I agree with Bren.
Bren, is that sort of anti-freestyle sentiment? Is that present in the UK as well, or is that strictly a US thing?
No, dude, it's definitely everywhere I go. UK, it's there as well right now, and a bunch of stuff. And I'm not, I would never say that river running or creeking or kayaking off waterfalls isn't awesome and cool. I just think that unfortunately people don't put in as much time into it as they'd like to. You start kayaking, you get confident, and then some people develop a little bit of an ego, and then that's fueled by surviving the way down rivers. And then just like Dano said, to do a waterfall well takes incredible amounts of skill and presence of mind and time put into developing those skills. But you can also just paddle off the lip and there's no doubt you'll be at the bottom a few seconds later.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, or you. But you can't get good at freestyle without putting the time in. You can't get good at any other side of kayaking or anything else in life without putting the time in. And I just think, unfortunately, a lot of people can get by not putting the time in, by just getting down rivers. Does that make any sense?
No, I hear what you're saying.
I can remember, Grace, Chip, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I remember when freestyle first started exploding, it was kayaking was nothing. The entire future of kayaking was freestyle. If you were around in 99, 98, 2000, in that area, the 2000. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly there was kind of a backlash. And I'll be honest, it came, at least from my experience, it came from the T-Dub Southeast Green River crew, where they were fuck freestyle. It's not core, and our friend Daniel was definitely a big vocal proponent of that. I remember in LVM, there was sort of a real struggle between Daniel, who had kind of fed up with freestyle and sort of what he considered to be pretty boys out doing, rodeo. And that was definitely, Daniel's sentiment on that. And then versus Spencer, who was still very active in the freestyle community.
Well, let me back up.
And then we did that rodeo is dead thing. You remember that way back in the day?
Yeah, but that was a freestyle competition.
Yeah, but it was sort of even still trying to poke a finger at the establishment. Freestyle at the time was the establishment. Corporate boating was freestyle.
Yeah,
and then I'm not saying it's right, but just saying that seems to me where suddenly people became a tribe and they pick sides,
Yeah, that could
to be core, you had to be a dirty and dirty creek boater to be a core boater.
But let's no. But see, let's talk about the thing. I think that needs to be clarified on that is that what these guys are doing up in Quebec, that kind of thing. That's freestyle. Just because it's not what the competitive scene was, there was nothing against freestyle. There may have been wow, there's this 99% of what everybody talks about are this circuit of competitions that are going on in, for the most part, pretty lame features and whatnot, and that was all our sport talked about. And so there may have been some frustration with that. But as far as freestyle, I don't think there's ever been any kind of negativity towards freestyle coming from the Big Gun. I mean, the Big Gun Show was a freestyle competition.
I mean, maybe not freestyle as a sport, but freestyle as a culture, you know?
Yeah, you could be
And
right.
it was, I don't think that thing is rational. I'm just saying people love to take sides, and that's how they, you know, identify themselves as someone who was against freestyle, you know, and that was cool.
Yeah, I think it comes down to what you want to do with your vacation. If you only have if you only got 6 weeks to go kayaking, what are you going to do with it? You know, so I don't know. You got anything else on that one, Weld? Because I got another viewer mail I got to move us into.
I'm done. That's it.
You guys feel good?
Nothing
on
more
that
to
one?
say about.
All right, here's a good one, and this one, this one comes from us from Casey Cunningham. I believe he's out of West Virginia. He wants to know, I'd love to hear your discussion on the thoughts and ethics of creek cleaning. Basically what he means about creek cleaning is going out sawing logs out of your local run or going somewhere and clearing the run so you can paddle it. Some runs are in wilderness areas where chainsaws are a no-go, while others are in state parks and require a very low-key approach to clean up. So what's the best way to get in there and make these creeks go again without pissing off fishermen or park rangers?
Handsaws.
Anybody want to jump on that one?
Very well-trained beavers.
With handsaws.
With handsaws.
Yeah.
And that's another good topic. I am all for cleaning up a run. I think it's just like doing maintenance on like a set of bike jumps or stuff like that. It's just if it's going to make it safer and potentially stop someone getting pinned underneath a log, I am all in for it. But with that being said, there was an incident, I think down somewhere south in England, where people actually rolled rocks into the river to like try and make this little pin spot safer. And I'm not cool with that, trying to make rapids easier and all that stuff. I definitely didn't think that was that cool, although I understand the logic behind doing it.
So there was actually a sieve or something. They tried to fill it in with rocks. I think we lost it.
Yeah, dude. I can't. No, I'm still here. I can't really comment. I've only done that river a few times, and that spot basically, a lot of the water pushes left, but some of it also pushes right, and it's pretty easy to get pushed over the right. And then there's a little slot move, and to be honest, man, if you keep your nose up, like any move on the green, you'll be fine. You come straight through it more than likely. But if you pencil into it, then you'll probably get stuck. Like it was definitely grabby if you didn't get your nose up, from what I was told. And I think they rolled some rocks in there and tried to stop that being as potentially pinny.
I believe that if it's something that makes a rapid challenging, but you're able to get around it, or if you're proactive and you can avoid it, and it's not a river-wide log sieve, then the whole point of to deal with the element. But if it's something that's not allowing you, like a full river-wide log that's keeping you from running a classic rapid, or is in a sketchy spot where people run every day, I'm all for taking those kind of logs out. But if it's not bothering you, or if it's simply just a nuisance, leave it be, because that's the whole point of being on a natural sport, is you have to deal with natural element, and logs are part of that. They might eventually get washed away.
Yeah, good point.
I do actually carry saw on my boat when we're doing out in the woods, but I also pointed out about 25% of the time I cut a piece of wood out and it goes downstream and makes even a more treacherous, more unobvious obstacle pin somewhere. So
but I guess that it's just a question how big of a mission it is. So, for example, we were on the Rio Florine earlier this year, or last December, and we couldn't run the first double drop because there was a log stuck in the first one. And we got told that, and we went there and saw it, and all it took us was literally 10 minutes in a throwback to rope it out and put it to the shore, So if it's such a little impact to the river, you just gain good things from it, I'm totally fine with that. But the second you have to bring in like engines, cutout stuff, maybe even move big cutout logs out of the river or away from the shore, stuff like that, then it might be a question. But as long as it's such an easy fix, I wouldn't bother and do it any second for sure.
Well, we have Seneca Creek here. Have you done Seneca? You've never done Seneca, I'm sure.
I haven't done it. 15
miles of whitewater. It's the longest whitewater stretch in West Virginia, I think. Class 4 or 5 whitewater. Hurricane Sandy. How long ago was that? 5-6 years ago?
Yeah, 3 or 4, something like that.
Still full of wood. No one's been in there because it is full of wood top to bottom. There's probably 100 trees down in that thing from the beginning to the end, and you would need to take a chainsaw in there, and no one's been really willing to do it because they know all hell's going to break loose if you start firing a chainsaw up in there. So there it remains. And I think Otter Creek is another priceless Monongahela whitewater run, same condition. It's just full of wood. And you absolutely have to have a chainsaw to clean that thing out. Those things, because they're both 10 plus miles of remote wilderness. So I don't know. What do you do?
It's a tricky one.
Hopefully, another hurricane will come through and wash it out.
Yeah.
Right.
Fingers crossed. I don't know.
And I'll tell you another thing. We had those hemlock aphids that are killing hemlocks, and those are falling all around here now too.
The woolly adelgids.
Yeah.
Well, if you have to pull start a chainsaw, is that a handsaw?
That's theologic. No chainsaws allowed. I had a hand started, Ranger. I swear.
It's in my hand.
Yeah, it's in my hand.
All right, fellas. Well, Bren, real quick, and I certainly appreciate all three of you guys coming on the show here. A lot of people are super interested in what's getting ready to take place up there. Couple things. Where can our viewers follow the action? What's going on?
Man, Facebook. Go to the Send page, which is the kayak collective that we started up, and we're going to be posting Facebook videos directly to that page of each event stage. We'll have a bunch of live updates on our Instagram account. That's just We Are Send. Go follow that, and you'll see a bunch of updates. And we'll be working with Kayak Session really closely as well, so you'll see a bunch of stuff from them.
Okay.
Our goal is to have an edit out within 24 hours. We're going to very strongly put our effort into having an edit done 24 hours after each stage. So when a stage is done, the next day there'll be an edit and content, and there'll be 4 stages. And then at the end of it all, I'm sure we'll do a wrap-up of all the best content and all that. But just keep checking the Send and Kayak Session pages, and there's going to be content rolling out every day or every other day.
As much as possible.
Very cool. So Facebook, go to Send, follow your Kayak Session, and the action will be coming to you. When are we starting this thing?
First stage will be on the 29th to the 30th, depending on water levels, and then from there we're rolling straight into it. We'll probably be an event once every 2 days, maybe back to back if there's going to be sick water levels. But that's the whole purpose of this event, is to get a sick group of people together and just chase the best white water that Quebec has to offer.
Well, I am certainly a big fan of all you guys, and I cannot wait to see it all come out.
You should do a follow-up.
Same here for you guys.
Yeah. Real quick before we let you go, what are the chances of maybe doing a follow-up or a mid-competition report? Will you have any service through that period? Or?
For sure, absolutely. Let's do it.
Yeah, we can always just stop at Tim Hortons if we're too far up north, and then get
all right, fellas. Well, I'll holler at you later, and good luck.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, guys.
All right, there you have it.
Well, you get a viewer mail about a Jackson answered by a Jackson.
There you go. It's hard to beat.
What the Hammer Factor brings to the table. Okay, I gotta. So, what do you think about that Jackson Freestyle Association? I mean, do you think?
I'll tell you where I think there is definitely an association there, but as well as I do, that period of time, and this is and I don't want to just bring it down to what it is, but everybody was buying freestyle boats. That's where the money was coming into everybody.
Oh, I know.
And so that's where everybody had to put their emphasis on it. And it wasn't. Yeah. And what happened?
No, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, and what happened was there were people who were into the sport, or people who were like, okay, that's cool, but there's all this other stuff going on in whitewater. They were fully left behind. They were ignored. That part was ignored. Expedition kayaking was ignored. Running hard whitewater was ignored. Races like the Green Race were ignored. It was just, and so that.
See.
So if there was any frustration, it came from, well, that is really cool. I do think that's a sweet competition. But what about all these other things that are going on? So if there's resentment, or if there is resentment from me during that time. It would be not so much at freestyle or at the people doing it or whatever, but the industry itself ignoring all those other parts for such a long period of time.
So what do you think about this Jackson thing? And I've in I brought this up with EJ, and I sort of skirting around it with Dane here a second ago, and they never quite really chomp into the subject. But what is it about Jackson? Because you and I both know there is people out there who just hate on Jackson.
Well,
and they don't know Eric, they don't know Dane, they don't know anything about the company, but they know to hate Jackson.
Well, you can't,
is that a holdover from freestyle?
I don't know if it's a holdover from freestyle, or is it the result?
Or is it because they're on top and it's easy to hate number one?
I think it's a personality thing. I think some people, you either love them or hate them. And
why? But what is it about them that's to love? I mean, I think you're right. I think you're onto something there. I mean, there seems to be something polarizing about them, but I've never been able to quite quantify that.
I don't know. Maybe one of our viewers can come in and bail us out on this one. I don't know. To put my finger exactly on it, I have no idea. People either.
Yeah, if a viewer out there wants to make an anonymous but serious analysis of that, send it in. We want to hear about it.
Yeah, that would be good. That would definitely be a good one to hear. I'll be honest with you. I don't know, and I don't think, back to what you were saying earlier about Daniel. Daniel was never anti-freestyle.
No, but he was very pro expedition, 1,000-yard stare, hardcore, Cali, High Sierra, creeking, multi-day, that was his thing. Yeah. And he was very much against the pretty boys. You know what I mean? And he was a charismatic guy. You know what I mean? He's the kind of guy that could lead a movement, whether he wanted to or not. Yeah,
well, there's definitely no doubt about that. I don't know. It's a good topic. Viewers, come on in, bail us out here.
Yeah, seriously.
All right. Should we get a Smalls to the Walls report, Weld?
Okay. So I want everyone to know out there in an effort of transparency, which your administration seems to want to obfuscate, but we need a guest log of people who are writing into the show and giving you gifts. Because I think there's a correlation between guests on the show and swag you've received.
Oh, this is such nonsense. There's no proof of this. And I just want to tell you, I'm a fan of the little guy out there rallying his crew and putting on his own race. And that's what my boy Andrew Cooper did up at Smalls to the Walls. What'd you call it? Little Switzerland?
Oh, it was Little Corsica. It looked like Corsica.
Little Corsica.
Corsica circa 1985.
Let's see if Andrew's on. He may have left.
He got sick of waiting.
I think he may have got sick of waiting. As much as he loves the Hammer Factor, he may have just been like, I'm out, boys. Good viewer mail. We've got a lot of, and to the people who we didn't get to their viewer mail, we'll get to them at some point, and we love hearing those. There's so many good perspectives out there.
Oh.
Andrew.
Here we go.
Hey, what's happening, man?
All right.
The weekly main report.
Oh, my God, man.
Yeah. Well, on the show, thanks for coming on. We have Andrew Cooper, who I believe you're the organizer behind Smalls to the Walls. Smalls to the Wall?
Got it.
Is it Smalls to the Wall or Smalls to the Wall? Smalls to the Wall. So
Smalls to the Wall.
Is it Smalls Creek? What is it? Is it Smalls Run?
It's Smalls Falls, which is just kind of like a little gorgy waterfall area on the Sandy River, which is near Rangeley, Maine. I say near because it's technically in like a township, like Township E.
Right.
So Rangeley is a little more recognizable.
Right.
So Andrew, tell us about yourself. What do you do up there in Maine?
So I am the assistant manager for a boat shop at like a specialty called Maine Sport Outfitters up in Rockport, Maine.
Hang on, you were breaking up there. Can you give that to us one more time? You were breaking up a little bit there.
Yeah, so I'm assistant manager in a kayak shop at an outdoor sporting goods store up in Rockport, Maine.
Okay.
Maine Sport Outfitters.
Maine Sport Outfitters, okay.
Yeah. So, I went to college for outdoor recreation and did some other things outside of college. But once I started working at Maine Port, that's where I definitely got hooked up with, the whole paddling crew up here and a lot of good paddlers. And since 2010.
So, Smalls to the Wall, did you come up with this idea for the race? Are you just continuing on? How long is the race? What kind of times are there out there? And what happened this year?
Yeah, so I came up with the race. The first time we ran it was 2014. My family has always had a camp up in the Rangeley area, and so I've always driven by Smalls Falls. Smalls Falls it's a rest area, so people kind of go there and they fish and they cliff jump and they swim. So it's a known spot. It's a really pretty spot. And then after I became a paddler, a light bulb just went off. I was like, why not have a race here? It's super accessible. There's some fencing up one side of the gorge, so it's it's kind of safe. It's kind of shut off a little bit, and it just looked like an awesome place to hold a race, just because of how accessible it was. It's short, so it's like 5 or 6 stack drops. People are doing the race in like under a minute.
So it's a sprint.
Yeah, and this year, yeah. Well, so it's really compact. It's just a fun kind of high energy race, long. But each racer gets 2 runs down the course, and then I kind of times for a fastest overall time. And this year the weather was beautiful. The water level was awesome. I would say there's like over 100 spectators there, and this was the 4th year that we ran it.
So let me ask you this, talking about, I'm going off topic here a little bit. We were just having some other discussions, Andrew, but so now it seems like racing is becoming you don't see the Cuyahoga Falls Rodeo or the Smalls Rodeo. You're seeing all these races come up. The industry is obviously taking more and more notice. Do you think there's going to be some backlash against racing at some point?
Yep. I think it's going to be an anti-racing sport, and the creek boaters are going to villainize racing and any brands associated with racing. I think that's what's going to happen. All right. We were talking about how freestyle has sort of been stigmatized in white by some people in whitewater. Just to
what do you think of freestyle, Andrew?
Freestyle?
You hate it.
Exactly. No.
You hate anyone who does it.
Not exactly out there throwing loops or anything like this. So, playboating's great, and there's a lot of awesome waves, to be had in Maine. But, creeking is definitely where it's at. You guys have had some people on from Maine before talking about the whitewater scene up here in Maine. It's so spread out. There's, a ton of options all over the place. So not super in tune to the freestyle thing, but, creeking's definitely where it's at. And the one good thing about this race is, like, the local community is totally, like, rallied behind it. It's, like I said, there was 17 racers, but there was, like, over 100 spectators. So they love it. They're like, you guys are going down the falls, and they're, like, cheering for us, and they chat up all the racers, and it seems like a super positive where you would think it would be maybe this kind of elitist niche thing, and that's definitely what I've wanted to get away from. I wanted the challenging spot, so it would provide a lot of action. I didn't want to, make it this super elite thing, and luckily, it definitely kind of hasn't. It's turned into just like this awesome community event.
So what about sorry, John.
The course looks fine. I mean, it doesn't look, it looks totally attainable by a decent intermediate plus skilled boater. It's not an insane class 5 rapid, but it also has a lot of verticality to it. And it's exciting, so. Oh
yeah, totally. Like it's so, as every rapid has its own personality, but it's just really neat. Each drop there in Smalls just kind of has its own unique personality. So it's really fun. It's got, like you said, it's obviously very attainable for the intermediate and advanced boater, but it's got just enough to not make it mindless. So there's always like a little bit of carnage, but yeah.
What how do you deal with flows there?
Yeah. So how do I do that? Just cross my fingers. There's a USGS gauge that's downstream of kind of the whole venue, and that's just kind of, I use that as, no pun intended, obviously, just, a gauge, and then just how the winter has been going. So far, I'm batting 1,000 on the race going on the proposed date. Like last year was, it was probably the 100 CFS, which I would say is about the lowest that I could run the race. And this year was at least twice that. So, yeah, I guess just getting lucky. I mean, you can kind of get dialed into that place. It's such a steep, narrow gorge that the ice almost just kind of goes within a week. So it's as predictable as, a natural flow can be. So there's no release or anything.
Well, congratulations on pulling off another event. I know firsthand how it can be to wrangle all that stuff together and pull it off safely. So props to you for that one. And,
yeah, thanks, man.
And where can our viewers find out more about Smalls to the Wall? So,
I try to post and keep things small, and it's all new this year, smallstothewall.com. So I definitely need to kind of update that. There's some like leftover merch, like T-shirts and stuff. So I'll try to be selling them through the website and the Facebook page. So
yeah,
and I got you a couple T-shirts coming in the mail.
Yeah, dude, killer swag. Pick yourself up a Smalls to the Wall shirt.
Yeah, and I appreciate the previous shout-outs. You guys had a couple other episodes about Smalls. So
yeah, love it. Have you been back to the Grand Canyon since we went down there, Andrew?
No, 2011, man. Wasn't that an epic trip, huh?
Sure was. I'll never forget that one.
What a crazy crew.
All right, Andrew. Well, we'll let you get back to it, and appreciate your time. Smallstothewall.com, and we'll see you on the river, man.
I appreciate it. Thanks for the time, John.
Thanks, Andrew.
Adios.
All right, thanks, guys. Bye.
Sorry about that connection. I don't know. They must. Was he breaking up for you, John?
Yeah, it's Maine.
Yeah, it's Maine.
Yeah. There we go. So you probably heard that.
All right. Well, we're close to our. We're pretty much at our time limit there. Good show. Lots of good people on this year. Let's Rants and Raves, everybody's favorite part of the show. And I want to remind everybody before we do Rants and Raves that I really want to hear some viewer mail on this whole freestyle hate thing. Freestyle love, freestyle hate. So,
right.
Interesting. Sometimes we're so embedded inside. It's so maybe some outside perspective would be good.
Right.
All right, you got a rant or a rave?
I had one. I can't remember what it is. Jeez. I can't recall.
Well, I have a rave, and you may not like this, John, because it kind of has to do with one of your competitors a little bit.
Oh boy. Here we go.
But I'm going to rave about NRS films. So NRS just releases these web films. They're really nicely produced, and they always have, most of the time, have a good story. But they just released one that kind of recapped Jimmy Carter's trips down the Chattooga before Deliverance when he was a governor, and his experience going over Bull Sluice for the first time. And it was a super compelling film that you learn a little bit about history and Jimmy Carter. So I want to rave about that film.
I'd love to know where NRS is, how NRS is making all this happen.
You mean where they can fund this kind of stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's great. Don't get me wrong. It's just, I'd love to be able to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well,
what am I missing?
Well, you're not selling, $3,000 rafts and, like think about every ducky operation in the country. They're just, while they do have dry tops and things like that, there's, they have a pretty broad selection of stuff that they're selling. Anyway, would you like to add a rant or a rave? Would you like to rant about how?
I had a really good one, but I cannot remember what it is.
Well,
shoot.
Feel free.
I don't know. It's gonna have to wait till next week.
Feel free to give John Weld some crap online about not being able to come up with a rain or rave, and I think we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, we have a good episode next week, don't we? I think we have an exciting guest.
Yes. Tell everybody about what we got going on next week, because you're kind of lining this one up.
Oh well, I have a good friend of mine who is an excellent kayaker and a slalom paddler who's now a surgeon specializing in shoulders and has done a lot of work on paddlers' shoulders. He's going to come on and talk about that people, all the bum shoulders out there, may want to tune in to hear what he advises you to do to prevent injury and how to treat yourself or how to take care of yourself post-injury. So,
there you go. And this is a surgeon, correct?
He's a surgeon. Yeah. He we're supposed to have him today, but he's in surgery. Go figure. So.
All right. Well, there you go.
I'd like to call in while he's on surgery.
Can you hold my scalpel? I got to take this. I mean, the hammer factor is that important.
Right.
Do you think we'll ever get Mitch McConnell on?
No, but we had a very, very exceptional guest pending. I won't mention any names. Mm-hmm. Is that still happening, or we lost track of that?
We've kind of lost track of that, but anything can come back around.
All right.
Hammer factor out. We will see you next week.
See you next week.